At the pre-wedding bachelor party, Ethan pushed me before the crowd, his tone frivolous. Allow me to introduce my fiancée, Emma, the most reserved and impoverished beauty of Jing University. She was so difficult to win over back then, yet now she lies obediently in my bed. With a stern expression, I proposed a breakup, and he smiled as he kissed my best friend, Sabrina. 1 year later, at Haicheng's most prestigious private hospital, he embraced the radiant Sabrina, guided by the director toward the VIP passage. Observing my swollen face and weary appearance before the gynecology clinic, his gaze turned icy. Emma, I thought you held yourself in high regard? Only a year after leaving me, you've stooped to visiting gynecology. Quite the libertine in private, aren't you? Spare me your schemes to gain my attention. I find self-disrespecting women like you repulsive. Without raising my head, I retorted, be quiet. It was merely a delayed menstrual cycle coupled with a loss of appetite. I intended to confirm a potential pregnancy to surprise my husband. How unfortunate to encounter him. Ethan and Sabrina, clad in matching white couple's attire, were escorted by the director and several experts toward the VIP passage. The director, smiling, inquired, Ethan, you've completed your annual physical this year, what brings you here now? Ethan furrowed his brow slightly but offered no reply. Sabrina cast him a coy glance and smiled gently at the director. Director, we are here for a premarital examination. We are preparing to wed. The director and several experts promptly offered their congratulations with smiles. Ethan, with a somber expression, leaned toward Sabrina and whispered, the wedding date isn't set, don't speak carelessly in public. Hurry up, we must visit Lucas to discuss investments without delay. Sabrina's smile faltered, and she nodded reluctantly. Ethan's countenance grew even more displeased. As Haicheng's wealthiest family, the Lungs command the nation's premier investment group, a benefactor eagerly courted by companies aspiring to go public. The Lung family heir, Lucas, is renowned for his discerning judgment and exceptionally rigorous investment evaluations. This evening's investment meeting was of paramount importance. He should have been meticulously preparing at home, yet Sabrina forcibly dragged him here for a premarital checkup. He was utterly devoid of enthusiasm. Observing their demeanor, I couldn't help but wonder, hadn't they married long ago? Why, even now, had they not set a wedding date? 1 year prior, immediately after I suggested ending our relationship, he kissed my best friend Sabrina in my presence. He buried his face in Sabrina's shoulder, yet his eyes remained fixed on me as tears streamed down my face. Sabrina, will you be my bride tomorrow? As I fled the private room in disarray, mocking voices trailed behind me. A poor student merely pretty, what's there to be proud of? Indeed, without Ethan, who in our circle would even notice her? Beautiful women abound, but where else could one find a handsome young master from a prominent family like Ethan, untroubled by her humble origins? Finally, Ethan's cold voice resounded, Emma, step out that door, and even if you return on your knees begging in regret, I won't spare you another glance. Emma, please proceed to consultation room 2. The clinic announcement interrupted my reverie. As I rose to leave, the housekeeper messaged me, young madam, Lucas has returned. I swiftly replied, please endeavor to detain him. Today, I deferred an investment consultation case to discreetly visit the hospital for a pregnancy test, intending to surprise my husband. Should he learn of this, he would undoubtedly hasten to find me at once. Just as I pocketed my phone, I unexpectedly collided with a firm embrace. Grimacing, I looked up, and Ethan's profound gaze erupted into a tempest, his voice quivering, is it truly you? Before I could compose myself, he regained his calm and pushed me away dispassionately. Emma, how did you learn I'd be at this hospital today? What, do you wish to throw yourself into my arms as you did when we first met, to rekindle my memories and entice me to pursue you again? Disinclined to engage, I turned to depart, only to be obstructed by the arriving Sabrina and the director's entourage. Panting, the director explained, Ethan, the physical examination center is in another building. Ethan disregarded the remark, interlocking his fingers with Sabrina's and raising them defiantly before me. See clearly, I love Sabrina, and we will marry soon. Emma, I advise you to abandon your fixation on me and relinquish hope promptly. Sabrina nestled against his shoulder like a delicate bird, offering a saccharine smile. Emma, you'll bless us, won't you? After all, you were the one who abandoned Ethan first. Our union is free of guilt. Congratulations, I replied evenly. Additionally, I am merely here for a checkup and encountered you by chance. I hope you won't overthink it. Checkup? Ethan's voice suddenly tensed. Are you ill? What's wrong? It's none of your concern, I responded coldly, feeling no obligation to inform my former boyfriend of the pregnancy test. His expression darkened abruptly as he interrogated the director. Which department is this? Gynecology. Sabrina promptly covered her mouth, raising her voice in feigned astonishment. Gynecology? Emma, you haven't contracted some unsavory disease, have you? I spun around sharply. Sabrina, what do you mean? No sooner had I spoken than Ethan seized my shoulders forcefully, his eyes brimming with cold fury. Emma, I thought you held yourself above others? A mere year apart, and you've descended to gynecology visits? You've been quite unrestrained in private, haven't you? This commotion swiftly drew a crowd. The surrounding stares and whispers cut into me like blades. This is Haicheng's finest private hospital. How could they admit such an unclean person? What if she transmits some filthy disease? The murmurs swelled, and Ethan's grip on my shoulders tightened further. Sabrina tugged at his sleeve, feigning conciliation. Ethan, I believe Emma must have had no choice. She's depended on her grandmother since childhood, and with her grandmother now afflicted with cancer, the medical expenses must be suffocating her. With that, she sighed theatrically. However, Emma, as a distinguished graduate of Jing University, securing respectable employment shouldn't be difficult, should it? How did you resort to such a deplorable means of earning money? Should your grandmother learn the source of this money, her condition might worsen from anger. Sabrina, I reprimanded sharply, silence your vile tongue. Humph, you can do it but can't bear others speaking of it? She muttered under her breath from behind Ethan, her eyes venomous. What are you pretending for? At that moment, an icy chill permeated my very core. We were best friends for a decade. On the night I parted with Ethan, my grandmother somehow received the news and abruptly fell critically ill. In her final moments, she grasped my hand weakly, expressing her wish to see her grandson-in-law one last time and entrusting him to care for me henceforth. Overwhelmed, I could only mechanically dial Ethan's number repeatedly. Yet, dozens of calls were all summarily disconnected by him. In my despair, the call finally connected. What greeted me, however, was Sabrina's suggestive, breathless voice. Emma, Ethan was exhausted just now, he's showering. He's my husband now, I can relay any message. As an ex-girlfriend, such persistence isn't seemly, is it? Trembling, I ended the call. Within 10 minutes, the doctor declared that my grandmother could not be resuscitated. Even so, I harbored no resentment toward Sabrina. The fault lies with my own naivety, clinging to unrealistic hopes about Ethan. Yet now, it appears she despises me utterly. Merely hearing gynecology spurred her to eagerly grind me into the mire, irredeemably. Upon her words, Ethan abruptly released me, sneering, so desperate for money? Then why cancel your bank card? I know your grandmother's illness demands funds. This past year, I couldn't even transfer money to you. Seeming to realize something, he shifted the subject. How much more do you need? I'll transfer it to you. He lowered his head to his phone. Give me your account number, take the money, treat your grandmother properly, and find decent work. After all, you were once my woman, Ethan. If it's known you earn money by pleasing men, I couldn't bear the disgrace. Sabrina chimed in with a saccharine tone. Emma is my best friend, after all. Ethan, give her an extra 100,000, on my account. Observing their harmonious charade, I took a deep breath. Never mind. In our 3 years together, I never asked Ethan for a single cent, even when my grandmother was ill. Moreover, she has long since passed, and my husband's allowance suffices to purchase this entire hospital. I lack for nothing. Ethan was visibly taken aback, clenching his jaw. Emma. Who are you feigning aloofness for? Look at yourself now. Once the belle of Jing University, now swollen-faced, unsightly, and disease-ridden, you're an utter laughingstock. How can they not utter 3 sentences without mentioning disease? Is humiliating me before this crowd so amusing? Unable to suppress my fury longer, I said icily, Ethan, are you deranged? Does a gynecology visit equate to illness? What concern is my state to you? We parted a year ago, now, we're less than strangers, understand? At that moment, the clinic broadcast my name again. As I moved to leave, he seized my wrist. His face grim, he paused for several seconds before lowering his voice. Spend one night with me, name your price. Stunned momentarily, I yanked my hand back fiercely. He gripped tighter, a weary curve tugging at his lips. If anyone can have you, why not me? Isn't it just money you want? I have plenty. In his eyes, what am I, exactly? I raised my hand to slap him, but he restrained me effortlessly. Ethan! Release me! I glared at him. He sneered abruptly and shoved me away harshly. Emma, don't overestimate yourself. I merely pitied you and sought a pretext to give you money. What makes you think I, Ethan, would touch a filthy woman like you? Caught off guard, I stumbled and fell to the floor. His brow creased almost imperceptibly, yet he made no move to assist me. Sabrina, previously tense, relaxed and leaned softly against him. Ethan, you frightened me. Emma is clearly scheming. Now that she's in such a deplorable state, she's recalling you again. You mustn't soften. Ethan clasped her waist naturally, pecking her lips. Darling, my eyes see only you. Glancing at me sidelong, he scoffed. I, Ethan, have no penchant for reclaiming refuse. This scene mirrored the one at our breakup almost exactly. After all this time, I had once more ensnared myself in such an ignominious plight. Before I could succumb to sorrow, a sharp pain stabbed my lower abdomen, instantly tautening my nerves. Would the child be all right? This thought compelled me to stand, but a more intense pain soon weakened my legs, nearly causing me to collapse again. Ethan's face contorted with disdain. Quite the performance, Emma. First throwing yourself at me, now feigning abdominal pain? How many more tricks have you? Why not enact them all at once? Clenching my abdomen tightly, my last shred of patience eroded. Move aside. I need to see the doctor. Mocking laughter erupted around me. TSK, this schemer's skills are impressive. Next, will she stage a terminal illness? Ha ha ha, do you think this is a melodrama? Ethan regarded me suspiciously, about to reach for me, when Sabrina encircled his neck. Ethan, let's ignore her. We still have the premarital checkup, and tonight we're meeting Lucas for investment talks. We can't tell Lucas we were delayed by an ex-girlfriend, can we? Despite Sabrina's plea, Ethan remained still, his brows knitted. Emma, I'm truly fed up with you, you exasperate me. Speak. Say you no longer love me, that you'll never entangle me again. Promise to vanish from my sight forever, and if you do, I'll let you go. Cold sweat beaded on my forehead. Enduring the pain, I repeated mechanically, Ethan, I ceased loving you long ago. I won't entangle you, I'll vanish forever. Yet he appeared dissatisfied with my response, his expression darkening further. To rid myself of him entirely, I gritted my teeth and added, I'm here only for a pregnancy test. I'm not ill-satisfied now. Pregnancy test? Ethan's voice rose sharply, his pupils constricting violently. Emma. You've conceived another's illegitimate child behind my back? Ethan, mind your words. We've parted, we're free to marry as we please. Must I report my pregnancy to him? Yet, racked by severe pain, I lacked the strength or desire to argue further. I turned to the director for aid. Director, please arrange someone to escort me to the consultation room. Cold sweat had drenched my back, and I gasped in agony. The director nodded to summon a nurse, but Ethan abruptly scooped me up and strode toward the consultation room. His face was impassive, his voice frigid as tempered ice. Listen, I don't care if you're truly pregnant or whose seed it is. He paused, aborted immediately. I could scarcely believe my ears, staring at him intently. What? His expression darkened instantly. Don't you understand? I won't permit this child to exist. Stunned briefly, I sneered. Ethan, who are you to decide? What's it to you? This is the child my husband and I have long awaited. what right have you to dictate its fate? Husband? His jaw clenched abruptly. Why didn't you mention a husband earlier? What game are you playing now? Provoking me deliberately, aren't you? Letting me know you have a husband and child to keep me tethered to you? To prevent me from marrying Sabrina, right? Think as you will. I shut my eyes wearily, unwilling to utter another word. From the moment we met, I had made it clear I wished no entanglement with him. Yet he obstinately believed I was playing coy, scheming to capture his attention. So be it, let him think so. Silent? So you concede? Ethan softened his tone abruptly. Abort the child, and I'll take you back. As if nothing ever happened. What nonsense are you spouting? Release me. I had let him carry me earlier to avoid delaying treatment, but now, with the pain subsiding, I could walk the rest myself. As I broke free and landed, Sabrina wailed aggrievedly, Ethan, you'd take her back? What am I then? We're about to marry. Ethan's gaze wavered. Sabrina, I simply can't stand seeing her degrade herself so. Rest assured, you're the only one I'll marry. Sabrina, unconvinced, pointed at me and shrieked, Emma. What base tactics did you use to seduce my fiancé? Have you no shame before all these people? I offered no reply, hastening toward the consultation room. The onlookers assumed my retreat stemmed from guilt, growing more brazen. Behold this mistress's audacity, seducing a man before his rightful partner. Such a temptress should be stripped and paraded publicly. Sabrina lunged to seize me, but Ethan halted her with a glance. Enough. Sabrina's eyes reddened with fury, gazing at me with disappointment. Emma, we've been best friends for a decade. As a child, your family was poor and your diet lacking. I bought you milk daily, fearing you'd be malnourished. Each new year, when my father bought me new clothes, I pleaded for a set for you too. Choking back tears, she said, haven't I been good enough to you? Is this how you repay me? Good to me? I laughed abruptly, my steps unbroken. On my birthday a year ago, the deeds you and Ethan committed, did you think I was unaware? Silence fell behind me instantly. Ethan always deemed me aloof, citing that bachelor party introduction as the reason I ended our engagement. Yet he was oblivious that it was my final shred of dignity. 3 months before the wedding, I witnessed them entwined in our matrimonial home, yet I chose self-deception. One was the fiancé I loved deeply for 3 years, the other my childhood best friend. I even questioned whether I was hallucinating. In retrospect, I should have let go long ago. A man who neither loved me nor respected my dignity was utterly unworthy of my attachment. In the consultation room, the doctor smiled post-examination. Congratulations, you are 2 months pregnant. The earlier abdominal pain without bleeding is a normal early pregnancy response. There's no cause for concern. My anxious heart finally eased. As I prepared to leave, Ethan blocked the doorway, his face grim. Abort the illegitimate child in her womb at once. The doctor, perplexed, asked, Is this gentleman the child's father? I hastily clarified, Doctor, pay him no heed, we have no connection. Ethan, deaf to my words, growled coldly, Emma, I'll say it one last time, abort this illegitimate child. Outside, the gawking crowd resumed their taunts. Ethan's doing her a favor by demanding an abortion. Does she intend to bear a fatherless child? Engaging in such work without contraception. Someone incited a chant, abort the bastard. Abort the bastard. My body trembled uncontrollably. I could ignore the earlier harsh insults. But now, hearing them label the 2-month life within me a bastard and clamor for its termination, my eyes reddened instantly. Orphaned young and soon to be a parent, I could not tolerate any defamation of my child. Shielding my abdomen, I glared fiercely at Ethan. Ethan, by what right do you interfere with my child? Who are you? I am married, and the child's father cherishes us. He's not a bastard, he's my most precious treasure. Meeting my tearful gaze, Ethan's eyelashes quivered slightly. Emma, comply. Perhaps sensing it too, the child within stirred unease in my stomach, rendering breathing arduous. Ethan, I told you to get out. I shoved him frantically. Get out. Get out. Darkness flickered before my eyes, yet he remained unmoved. If you're married, divorce, this bastard must be aborted. Force my wife to divorce? And abort my child? A deep, languid voice pierced the clamor. My tears burst forth immediately. Husband. Ethan's form stiffened abruptly. Before he could react, he was hauled outside. The next second, a pair of slender, strong arms enveloped me gently. Burying my face in his chest, I heard his rapid heartbeat, and the prior discomfort miraculously subsided. Without looking up, I knew his brows were tightly furrowed, as they always were when I was wronged. Emma, his voice, hoarse with tension, asked, why conceal the pregnancy test from me? Had I not noticed the housekeeper's odd demeanor? Before finishing, he sighed helplessly. Gently, he placed me on the examination bed. Doctor, please examine my wife again, she was quite unwell moments ago. Post-examination, the doctor glanced meaningfully toward the door. In early pregnancy, ensure adequate iron and calcium intake, maintain a well-ventilated environment, and stabilize emotions, particularly avoiding extreme highs and lows. Lucas's taut shoulders finally relaxed. Guilt overwhelmed me, tears falling freely. I meant to surprise you, to tell you you'd soon be a father. But I seem to have botched it. He tenderly wiped my tears, his voice soft. Darling, don't cry. I'm not upset. Cupping my face, a smile bloomed in his eyes. Today is my happiest day, I'm to be a father. Remember, you have me and the baby. Promise me you'll be happy. I nodded vigorously. I suddenly realized that clashing with Ethan and Sabrina earlier was unworthy, harming myself and, worse, the baby. Lucas led me from the consultation room, only to confront a grim-faced Ethan head-on. When Lucas dragged him out earlier, he'd struck his head against the wall and had only now recovered. He stared at me with contempt. Emma, don't tell me this is the husband you claim loves you? Ethan cast a scornful glance at Lucas beside me. This violent brute? Your taste has truly deteriorated. Before his words settled, upon recognizing Lucas, he froze. Lucas? Ethan's voice shifted pitch abruptly. How could you be Emma's husband? Lucas spared him not even a glance, leading me forward. Must I report my private affairs to you? Ethan hastened after us, his voice trembling with panic. Lucas, there must be some misunderstanding. Emma's my ex-girlfriend, though somewhat attractive. She's from a poor family and now engages in disreputable work. Have you mistaken her for someone else? Lucas's expression remained steady, but he gripped my hand tighter, his aura nearly palpable with menace. Ethan, misinterpreting, smirked. I knew it was a misunderstanding. How could a family like the Lings permit someone of Emma's standing to enter? He reached for my wrist. Come, return with me. I wrenched my hand back sharply. Ethan, you're truly repulsive. At that moment, Sabrina caught up, clutching Ethan's arm tightly. Ethan, I'm your fiancé. Why entangle yourself with her? A year after your breakup, she's married and pregnant. What's worth your lingering over in such a base woman? Ethan shook her off coldly. Sabrina, no wedding date is set. I've never proposed. Don't carelessly claim to be my fiancé. Sabrina, shocked and furious, cried, then what am I? You said you'd love only me in this life, marry only me. Mere words spoken in haste, Ethan retorted coldly, hastening after us. Seeing Lucas still clasping my hand, he roared in frustration. Emma. Are you deaf? Come here. I'm giving you one final chance. 3, 2. I knew that in the narrow corridor earlier, Lucas had restrained himself from confronting Ethan's pestering only to swiftly remove me from that stifling environment. Now, in the spacious hospital lobby, we no longer needed restraint. I halted abruptly, delivering Ethan a resounding slap. Are you offering me a chance to be your mistress or your clandestine lover? Ethan, haven't I been clear enough? We ended long ago. I am now Mrs. Ling. From the corner of my eye, I saw Sabrina clinging like adhesive once more, posing as the rightful partner. I cut her performance short. Sabrina, kindly manage your man, will you? Ethan clutched his face, his gaze turning fragile. Emma, will you again, as you did the day before our wedding, cruelly cast me to another? All because I made a harmless jest introducing you to friends? Must I kneel and apologize before all to affirm your lofty superiority as the campus belle? He truly excels at shifting blame. Clearly entangled with Sabrina long before, he now foists all fault upon me. Irritated, I ruffled my hair. On my birthday night, I lay drunk in the living room while you two entwined in my wedding home's bathroom. Was I dreaming? Must I clarify further? The water from your body soaked the sheets. The next day, I discarded the entire bed. Emma, Ethan interrupted wearily, I didn't know this troubled you. You should have told me sooner. That night, I was drunk too and mistook Sabrina for you. Ethan. Sabrina screeched suddenly, mistook her? Then what of later in your office, in her wedding dress fitting room, in your car? Were you drunk every time? Hearing her, I couldn't help but be stunned. I thought I knew all, yet they'd committed so many sordid acts beneath my notice. Suppressing a surge of nausea, I tugged Lucas's sleeve. Husband, let's go, I feel queasy. Yet Ethan pursued relentlessly, Emma, Sabrina seduced me. I never intended to marry her, my heart has always held you. Before his words faded, Lucas shielded me behind him. The next instant, he seized Ethan's collar, hurling him toward the railing. Half of Ethan's body dangled instantly, eliciting screams from all around. A cold glint flashed in Lucas's eyes. I've endured you long enough. Continue counting? 3, 2, 1. With each number, he thrust Ethan further outward, his voice devoid of warmth. Xingming technology, Ethan? The hospital director stumbled forward, nearly dropping to his knees. Lucas. Please show mercy. All can be negotiated, a life lost would be. Lucas glanced at him sidelong, a cold smile curling his lips. When my wife was insulted in your hospital, when my child was branded a bastard, when so many clamored to harm him, where were you, director, sipping tea in which office? I. The director, drenched in sweat, trembled, unable to continue. Sabrina surged forward, clutching Ethan's legs desperately, sobbing, Lucas, please spare Ethan. He was only overly concerned for Emma, fearing she bore some rogue's child. Though they were once together, Ethan no longer loves her. I'm his fiancée, we came today for a premarital checkup, you must believe me. Ethan, ungrateful, rebuked her with disgust. Silence. When did I acknowledge you as my fiancé? Cease your presumptions. I clearly still love Emma, why else would I meddle in her affairs? Sabrina's face blanched instantly, yet she clung to Ethan unyieldingly. Ethan, one day you'll see that Emma, this ungrateful wretch, is utterly unworthy of your love. Lucas's gaze darkened, his grip tightening further. I'd never witnessed such fury in him. In my memory, he was ever gentle and composed. At our first meeting, I interviewed at a Lung family company. While sipping coffee at the elevator entrance, someone bumped me, splashing it across my face. As the doors parted, Lucas and I locked eyes. His furrowed brow relaxed, and upon seeing my predicament, he couldn't suppress a laugh. That smile etched itself deeply into my heart. Recalling this, I stepped forward to dissuade Lucas. I'm weary, let's go home. Sullying your hands for such a person isn't worth it. He offered me a reassuring look. Emma, sit over there and wait, I'll resolve this swiftly. I nodded obediently. Whatever Lucas said, I trusted unconditionally. Lucas turned to the nearly exhausted Ethan, his voice frigid. My wife's beauty requires no affirmation from you. From humble origins, she rose by merit to become the Lung family's premier analyst. Ambitious, kind, optimistic, occasionally sensitive. I admire her virtues and embrace her flaws. I love Emma wholly, as she is my beloved, my wife. I forbid you to disparage her in the slightest. Warmth suffused my heart. So this was how Lucas perceived me, truly splendid. And Ethan? In his words, I was poor yet haughty, shamelessly latching onto his Gu family without gratitude. Even a year after our parting, each of his words bore barbs, wounding deeply. It's often said that love cannot be concealed. Yet, it seems disdain is equally impossible to mask. Even with his life in peril, Ethan remained stoic, but now, hearing Lucas, the color drained from his face. Lucas, is this person you described truly Emma? Lucas snorted coldly, flinging him to the ground. Tonight's investment meeting is cancelled. Henceforth, the Lung family will not invest a single cent in Xingming. This decree effectively sentenced Xingming to ruin. A firm spurned by the Lungs would flounder in the capital market. Ethan swayed, then chuckled softly. No matter, so long as you return Emma to me. Her disposition suits Mrs. Gu perfectly. In a top-tier house like the Lungs, you'll eventually deem her insufficiently refined, unworthy of your stature. Oh? Lucas arched an eyebrow with a faint laugh. Ethan is magnanimous, willing to relieve the Lung family. Ethan's voice, hoarse yet resolute, countered, I love only Emma, it's unrelated to the Lungs. Enough. I interrupted, patience exhausted. Ethan, the psychiatry ward is on the 3rd floor, shall I book you an appointment? As Ethan prepared to retort, Lucas drew me back. Wife, don't upset yourself. Lucas guided me outward, dialing, Lawyer Wang, Su Xingming Technologies. Ethan immediately. Charges, public disturbance and harassment. Evidence? He glanced at the director. The surveillance footage, I presume, is ready, Director? The legal team swiftly amassed evidence, filing suit against Ethan and Sabrina. With comprehensive footage and testimonies from the director and medical staff, the case proceeded seamlessly, resulting in their lawful detention for 1 month. A mere month sufficed to alter much. Someone edited and uploaded the hospital confrontation online, titled starkly, Suffocating Scumbag and Venomous Best Friend Documentary. The video's release sparked an uproar, with netizens decrying the shameless pair. As the scandal festered, zealous users unearthed additional affair footage from locations like the office, propelling Xingming Technology Ethan to multiple trending searches. Upon their release, enraged netizens amassed outside the detention center, pelting the fleeing duo with rotten eggs and spoiled vegetables. Ethan scrambled into a car, slamming the door shut. Sabrina stood dazed, yet to recover from the upheaval, as the crowd encircled and berated her. Browsing the viral hospital video online, I noticed my face obscured entirely by a cute rabbit emoji. I laughed aloud. Husband, you didn't edit this yourself, did you? Lucas, peeling grapes for me, paused, his ears faintly red. What, isn't the rabbit charming? Shall we switch to a panda? His reaction was a tacit admission. Typically stretched thin as 2 men, he'd still found time to personally edit the video to vent my grievances. Warmth flooded my heart, and I leaned to embrace his waist. I love you, husband. The words escaped, and my eyes welled up first. Pregnancy had indeed heightened my sensitivity, tears ever near. Lucas stiffened, his voice tight. Emma, this is the first time you've said you love me. His eyes reddened instantly, as if he'd awaited those words for ages. Once, Ethan and Sabrina's betrayal plunged me into despair over love. Even after meeting Lucas, though I knew we loved each other deeply, I never dared voice that love. I dreaded the pain of loss anew. Only today did I fully shed the past shadows. Caressing Lucas's cheek, I said, in truth, on that first elevator encounter, your smile was already imprinted in my heart. Lucas always believed his months of steadfast pursuit won me over. He didn't know I'd fallen for him at first sight. That inexplicable visceral flutter, perhaps faded. Lucas was indeed prescient. Ethan, the obsessive, inevitably sought me out. At dawn, as I alighted from the car, he barred me at the company entrance. This once arrogant man now knelt on one knee, clutching pink roses, his posture abjectly absurd. Emma, marry me, grant me another chance. I glanced coldly at the roses, my favorite hue, yet held by someone so loathsome. Without pause, I strode toward the office lobby. Emma. He shuffled forward on his knees, voice anguished. What must I do? This year, I've searched for you madly, rehearsing countless reunion scenes in my mind. But you? You gaze at me as if I'm a stranger. What other fool would, like me, send you money right after a breakup, just to treat your grandmother? Only this fool still loves you. I paused. Ethan, I forgot to mention, my grandmother has passed away. The roses fell from his hands with a thud. What, when did this happen? Exhaustion overwhelmed me suddenly, the night we broke up. In her final moments, she wished to see her grandson-in-law one last time. Pity, I made 37 calls, all hung up by you. While you were likely enjoying yourself with Sabrina, weren't you? As if drained of all strength, he slumped to the ground. That night, I drank to oblivion, vomiting in the bathroom until dawn. Trembling, he raised his head, tears pooling in his eyes. When I sobered and sought you, you'd utterly vanished. Is that so? I nodded lightly. Despite Ethan's heartrending cries behind me, I didn't turn back. The truth I'd once fixated on unveiled abruptly, yet my heart was tranquil as still water. I'd long since lost all faith in Ethan. Over the ensuing months, I occasionally glimpsed Ethan's figure from afar downstairs at the company or during prenatal visits. He kept his distance, his increasingly gaunt form exuding stark desolation. At times, meeting my gaze, his eyes would briefly spark, only to dim as I looked away, his spine hunching further. On the day I left the hospital post-delivery, Lucas informed me Ethan had been in an accident. Sabrina, clad in a wedding gown, had maniacally driven into him. Lucas spoke softly. Sabrina suffered severe head trauma, her intellect reduced to a child's. Ethan's legs are paralyzed, he lies bedridden daily, nurses privately regarding him as vegetative. Complex emotions welled within me. Husband, how did it come to this? Lucas gently pinched my cheek. Emma, don't blame yourself. You merely chose to leave a misguided relationship, you've never done anything wrong.